Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Wake Up with Toastmasters. My name is Jean Williams. I'm your Program Quality Director for District 115, which is Southern Nevada and a little piece of Utah. And this is my co-host, Jean Dunford. Hi, Jean. Hi, Jean. Oh, you're muted.
No, I'm not. How are you? Hey, I got us on Facebook already. What do you think of that? I have a small computer issue with our banner. I apologize. I don't have your banner up saying "Wake Up with Toastmasters." I cannot. I cannot get my. I've got to get my computer axe out and chop on my computer again.
You are incredibly loud today. Your volume is. Speaking of volume, we're going to talk about. We started talking about know your audience on Wednesday with Anita, you and I, and Anita, and we talked about know your audience. So we talked a little bit about making sure that you're dressed appropriately for your audience and for the occasion, making sure that you are using the vocabulary that you'd be using for the right no jargon, make sure that you're not talking over someone's head on purpose, all those things like that. And then we had just started talking about using the stage and your volume and things like that. So I thought we'd continue. So it's not truly part two of know your audience, but it's being aware of how to use your stage and how to use in what volume. So then that leads us to, if there's not a sound system, even if there's not a sound system, you should come early and check how people hear your voice. I end up having the opposite problem. Usually people in the next room can hear me. So when I project my voice, I never have a problem with the back row hearing me. But if you know that you are one of those people that has trouble with the back row hearing you, don't be afraid to get somewhere early and have a friend of yours sit in the back and just speak in the way you plan to speak and ask if you can be heard. We were at a contest last weekend. Interestingly enough, even though it was set up as an auditorium room, the acoustics were really bad. People in the hallway could hear very, very clearly everything that happened in the room, but people in the room could barely be heard by people in the room. But you kind of assume when you see a theater style setup that they've bounced off the acoustics correctly. This was not the case. So one way, if you can't get there early and test, make sure you have an awareness of a vague awareness of how far your voice travels. You can do that anytime, anywhere. Just hang out with a friend or a family member and say, can you guys over there hear me? Can you hear me over there? Just have an awareness of how loud you are. But if you get into a room and start speaking like the one we had last weekend, the room was not huge by any means. It was actually a long rectangular room, so they were much wider than it was deep. But the people in the back, so if your audience is doing this and leaning towards you with that one ear kind of towards you, that usually means can't hear you. And if it's going to be a long speech, if you're able to, and if it's a speech contest, once you start talking, you're talking. But if it's something else where you're just giving a speech, maybe pause for a moment. Can you all hear me in the back? And then have them tell you no. Some clubs actually have Windjammers, Wednesday morning, 7:30 a.m. Skinny Dugans. Windjammers has a blue card they hold up. So they have the timing cards, the green, yellow, and red timing cards, but they actually have a blue card because the timer sits in the back of the room. And if the timer can't hear you, they'll hold up a blue card so you can know that they can't hear you. It's a clever idea. If you have a friend that's in the very back row and no one's going to see what they're doing, have them hold up a blue card. Can't hear you. Can't hear you. And then you know to project even better, because it's a tough thing. And if people can't hear you, they try for a moment or two. You see them leaning forward, squinting at you, but pretty soon they give up and you'll just see that you've lost them. They'll start looking at other things, start playing with their phones, start interacting, maybe even interacting with each other, which is not good, because then the noise from the back starts combating your sound from the front.
Sometimes you get the deaf guy that's in there says, "Hey, can you hear him? Hey, over there, can you hear him? I don't hear him. Can you hear him? Yeah."
That would be so mean.
Well, he wouldn't know. He can't hear.
You're going to get us thrown off the air. Okay, Gene's siblings are deaf, so I guess he does mean things to them. They were siblings. Anyway, stop it. That's not acceptable. But so yeah, you want to make sure people can hear you. Absolutely make sure people you have to do a whole show on disabilities. I actually have a whole speech I gave on working with people with disabilities. So we'll do that one day. Anyway, so but yeah, so you want to, oh no.
No. Gene actually was a transcriber for the deaf at college. She would take their notes and make sure that they got their notes so that they could do. And that's how she earned her college degree, by helping other students. I'm proud of you. You're great. But back to our show. I apologize for saying anything. I was just making a comment that I have had that happen. Someone has always said in the back, "I can't hear him." And they don't mean to be really loud, but they sometimes are. There's a whole speech project on dealing with how's that worded? Obnoxious audience or difficult audience? Yeah. I must be a difficult audience this morning.
Yes, you are. I just mute you. We'll mute him. Dealing with the difficult. That is one of your projects. I can count this as my project if he continues the difficult audience. But yeah, but do have an idea of your volume, and it's not hard. I mean, if you notice that you're sitting at a table, a large table, maybe 8 or 9 people, and people at the opposite side of the table. This is the universal look for I cannot hear you. It's that head tilt and the squint. If you see, even when you're at a table for 6 to 8 people, and the people at the opposite side of the table are leaning way in to hear you, you probably just have a volume problem. And it's not unconquerable. It just means that you have a very soft, quiet voice, and it's time to speak from the diaphragm and speak loudly. And you can practice even that skill at that large table. So if you sit at the break room table and have your friend sit at the opposite side of the break room table and speak very clearly and distinctly until your friend can hear you. And then once you master that skill, you just keep ramping up the volume. I end up with, as a little kid, project your voice. And now I end up with people 2 tables over in the break room chiming in on my conversation. So obviously I've mastered that skill in abundance. So I don't have that problem. But I just, they say, speak to the back of the room. And I say, I'm speaking to the back of the next room over, but that's okay. So yeah, so know your volume and have an idea of your volume. Also have an idea of your pitch. If you are very, very high pitched and then you speak very loudly, some of your friends with hearing aids may not truly appreciate your skills. So just, that's where you need that friend or sibling that can truly be honest with you and just see if you can, bring it down a little bit, because you can bring your pitch down, and so work on that. So that brings us to volume. We talked about volume, and also if you're too loud, and I get this, I get the, like, so okay, then mine is not like that from the back of the room. Mine is my friend in the back. Bring it down. So I get to bring it down a little bit, and that's okay too. But if you're that loud person like me, look for the signs in the back of the room, or even at the corners. People tend to speak only to the straight in front of them. Speak to your back corners and speak to, well, in your front row. People, for some reason, want to speak right to that person right in the middle, and that's nice. But that goes to kind of our next subtopic, which is use your stage. use your stage. How do you use your stage? And what's not using your stage like people think it is, pacing back and forth is not using your stage. It's not, it's pacing back and forth. So if you're, and some of my favorite comedians do that. I watch some of my favorite comedians and they just pace the stage, pace the stage, pace the stage. And they talk the whole time and they pace the stage. And that's not really using your stage effectively. It is using your stage. And I suppose in some ways it beats just standing there, still. But using your stage really is more of using it effectively. So the most common way and the way I've seen it used the most effectively, keep in mind your audience members read from left to right in America. So you read from left to right. You can use your stage where you start on your right, which is their left, and you start and you move across the stage. If you're telling a story, that's really a neat way to do it. So you start in the middle, introducing your speech. Have you ever had a nightmarish Christmas? And then you're going to talk about maybe 2 times or 3 things that happened at one, because 3 is kind of the magic number. So you go over to the left and you can make time pass. So you go to your left, your right, our left. When I was 7 years old, and you kind of stand in that quadrant of the stage where you talk about that portion of your speech. Then you move back center. Then you can move over to the other side, talk about another event that happened, move back center and finish your speech in the center. That's very effective.
One of my Toastmaster friends, Darren LaCroix, world champion of public speaking, Toastmasters, talked about creating holograms. And he would talk about, you point to a space on the stage, and that stage, say you're talking about when you were a child. So when I was 8, well, that space represents when you were 8. And then you moved to when you were 12, and then you moved to when you were 14. And then you can say something like, when I was 18, I remembered back, and you point to the age that you were, 8 years old, and you're creating a hologram of that 8-year-old person. You're not there, but you point to that position. And you say, when I was 8, this is what I thought. And you create a hologram for the different places that you've spoken on the stage. So it's not only just using your stage, but referring back to those positions as going back in time or going forward in time. And you can point to those. He calls it creating a hologram. I like that. I like that concept.
I like that idea, and it does, because if you are what they call blocking, if you are blocking where you have the 8-year-old you, the 10-year-old you, and then the 18-year-old you, and then your center is you present day, you could say, back or then, and here I am, that. So yeah, it's a wonderful way to use it. But moving purposefully is a better way to use your stage than just pacing back and forth. When you pace back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, some people think it agitates people, because some people do pace when they're agitated. So now they're saying you pace, and well, if he's agitated, I should be agitated. I should be pacing too. So you get those people in the audience. Other people in the audience who are just kind of having this, watching a tennis match dizziness. I just get to where I just start looking center and wait for the person to pass. So don't do that. Just use your stage effectively. You can do it by a time that's passed. That's the most common way. If you're telling a story, time has passed. If you're giving a modern day speech about 2 new programs you're introducing and how those programs are going to intertwine, your stage right for the first most important program, your stage left for the second most important program, in the center when you want to talk about what they have in common, back to one side, back to this side, back to the center of how they're having common, stay in the center of how they're going to intertwine, the pluses and minuses of each time, back in the center of how you're going to bring them together. And then you're encouraging people to bring them together in the middle. Things like that. So always find a way to divide it up. If you're talking about, even if you're standing around in a park, talking to your friends in a big circle, you can talk about your in-laws' family and how they did Christmas by just taking one step to the right, and then your family and how they celebrated the holidays by taking one step to the left, and then centering your weight in the middle, and talk about how it was this past holiday when you just had everybody over. There's easy ways to do it, and those are ways to practice. When you get to a big stage, you're using your stage effectively. unlike volume where I don't have any problem, stage movement is my problem. I tend to stand right there, centered, cemented into the stage as if I'm forbidden to move. And this is a huge, huge thing for me to overcome. Even when people talk about moving all the way, like I just told you, the textbook answer I just told you, but me doing it. So I step over to one side, but I just want to lean over. I have to walk over, and I get so nervous walking on a stage. And it doesn't have to, it can be one of those put together stages for an event. It could be one that's been there for, 10 years. It can be a deck on someone's house. For some reason, it just seems like I tend to want to just plant. And then I end up with my friends say, no, move. So I end up with my one friend in the audience who I practice with, who just keeps like, yeah, no, take another step, there you go. That's it. So I end up going early and checking out the stage just to see how far I can walk. But you don't want to feel so uncomfortable. And it's this balance for me. I want to move enough to show the time passage, but I don't want to move so much that I'm a nervous wreck. So for me, it's only 2 steps. For anyone else, it might be 4 steps. I've even seen people, I saw at one contest recently, it was really kind of cute. The guy actually said, let me take you back. And he took 2 steps to the left. No, way back. He took 2 more steps. Come with me, folks, way, way back. And he took 2, it was really cute. And we all kind of, oh, okay. Now then he talked about, I don't know, the childhood, being a child. And then he moved us back slowly as he told the story. He just kept taking a step back until he got back to center. And then he talked about the future by taking a step over here, and then even becoming way old by coming way over to the side. It was very cleverly done, even telling us, come on, come with me. It was very cleverly done. So there's lots of fun ways to use the stage and use it to your advantage. What do you think is the least effective way to use a stage, Gene?
I think that the least effective way would be to have a lectern on the stage, and just stand behind the lectern and give your speech from that lectern. Most politicians do that when they're giving a speech. You hardly ever see a politician move around the stage. They have their notes, usually a teleprompter or something like that, attached to the lectern, so they're reading their speech off the teleprompter. I think that's not a very effective way to give a speech or a presentation. It's probably the best way to communicate information that you want to make sure you get all of the information out so that everybody knows the same thing. My problem is I have such a short memory that if I try to memorize a speech, unless I use the approach about having the holograms and pointing back to those, I can remember those particular places, and that helps a lot with giving a speech. So I think that the worst way you can do it is to stand behind a lectern and deliver your speech from there.
Yeah, I agree. But I have done that. I think that's one of the first time speakers problems. But usually when you're a very first time speaker, at least in Toastmasters, it's your very first speech, it's your icebreaker. It's very common to see the person either completely pace or stand right behind, kind of hiding behind the lectern and hiding behind their notes. And nobody really will mind, because it's really about gauging where you are in your speaking abilities and then finding things for you to improve upon. So maybe you just didn't know some people just don't realize they should move or can leave. If the lecturer is just sitting there, and for those of you who are not in the know, podium is the thing you stand on, lectern is the thing you stand behind. So people tend to use podium when they mean that thing you stand behind, and that's actually a lectern. So there you go. That's the lesson of the day if you're not a Toastmaster. But your lectern, some people just think you're supposed to stand behind it. And I've heard that, for example, the reason a lot of politicians do stand behind them, especially if they're higher up in politics, where they have, bodyguard or Secret Service, is because that's where the Secret Service and the bodyguards can protect them.
Usually those are bulletproof.
Possibly, but usually because you'll see sometimes that when they're running for office, they're all over the stage and they're really commanding the stage and using the stage. Then they get into office and they're just standing there. And some of them look very uncomfortable standing there, maybe because they're used to walking around. And I do believe we talked in one of our Toastmaster meetings about that. And the subject came up, well, that's where they are protected. That's where Secret Service is protecting them. That's where all the sharpshooters, all of the guards, all of the people, the Secret Service that's on the stage, that's where they can protect them the most. And I believe you're right. I think they are bulletproof, so they can crouch down and hide behind them. So that of course, but since you're not president, you're probably not even the vice president. If you're especially if you're watching us today on a Friday morning at 6 a.m. Pacific, probably
No,
not there.
none of my ex-wives are at the point where they want to shoot me like they were before.
So yeah, so if you just for whatever reason, but no, most of us, the majority, 99.9% of us can use the stage. Now, then the question comes up, and this has come up before. What if you feel very like the stage is very rickety? Or what if you feel that the stage is uncomfortable? But there again, go back to your comfort level. Perhaps the way to move across the stage if you feel very uncomfortable is just to take one step and then shift your weight. Take back to the middle, take one step, one more, shift your weight. And you can do that slowly. You can sidestep it. I've seen it done all different ways. And believe me, again, that's not my strong suit. So I've done all of it.
I've seen speakers arrive early wherever they're going to be giving their speech and actually get up on the stage and map it out and walk around and get comfortable with the stage. I think that's a good way to get yourself comfortable with your set that you're going to be talking in. Get there early and be on the stage.
I spoke at one event where the stage was actually very scary. The stage had this little shakiness about it, and I'm not the lightest human being. So I stood up on the stage and I mean, it wasn't groaning at me, but it felt this little uncomfortableness. And I took another step and then I started feeling extremely uncomfortable. And I thought, okay, I just envision, the whole thing collapsing, people screaming. Thank God this was before everybody took pictures of everything. But, it was, so yeah, for me, I got to the center and then I would step over a couple, like one step to the side, one big step to the right, like a hokey pokey, a step to the left, back to the middle. But that's as much as I was going to do because those edges of that stage were a little bit scary. But also, even the coming to the stage and practicing on the stage brings up one more point about being comfort level. If it's not a stage that's been there forever with the wood and the bars and the everything else, if it's a put together stage for the event, you might want to just practice climbing up and down the steps, because sometimes so this was one of those things you laugh about later because it's a nightmare when it happens. And I guess when they were setting up the stage, they decided, hey, we'll just turn over a milk crate and put a piece of cloth over it and people can, and so the woman telling me the story said she walked over, she was in charge of the event, and said, what is this? Oh, well, we couldn't get the stairs and she said, no, I'm not going to have somebody with high heels come over and step on this upside down milk crate. No. So everything got put off by 10 or 15 minutes for them to get the steps set. But there you go. If you get there early, see if you can feel comfortable stepping up onto the stage and don't be afraid. I kept thinking, well, if somebody helps me up to the usher, not usher, we call them sergeant at arms. The sergeant at arms that'll walk over and help you up onto the stage. And somehow in my little arrogant brain, I thought, well, that would make me look like I'm not competent to speak. No, it makes you look like you're accepting help. And that's, so the second time I spoke, when I got over my arrogance, not his, I took his hand and I took the 2 steps up to the stage and waited for him to let his hand go gently. There was no problem. Nobody thought anything about it. And I felt much more comfortable on these little steps with no railing of any sort. So just be aware of that. And if you have a disability, a physical limitation of any kind, don't be afraid to tell your sergeant at arms. It might be saying, after I get on stage, I'd like my walker put up on stage over here so that they can get you to the steps, help you up the steps. And then the minute you get on the stage, put your walker up on the stage. That's what your sergeant at arms is for. I'd like you to hand me my cane when I come to this point. I'd like my canes leaned over against the lectern. I would like my walker here, or I will need my wheelchair there, or I would need a ramp or whatever it is you need, don't be afraid to ask for that. And they will absolutely make sure you get it. I've even seen speakers who want to sit in a chair. So I've heard them say, I will do my introduction standing, then I'll need a chair over in this corner because I'll walk to the chair and I'll sit and give part of my speech. And I've written it into my speech so nobody will think anything about me sitting. Then I'd like to stand and have the chair removed. That's what your sergeant arms is for. And no matter how detailed the directions, they'll work with you on that, especially if it's in a contest. So we've talked about know your voice and know your stage. I think we've covered a lot. Is there anything in Facebook? Oh, Jennifer. Oh, so Jennifer's sister. Oh, let me mute you again. Jennifer's sister was just ordained a minister. Congratulations, Jennifer, and your sister Cynthia. Yay. And Cynthia is actually our own executive secretary for the district. So that's administrative assistant for the district. So hey, double congratulations. So if you didn't see that, that was actually, we're going to keep it a mystery, like what are those, where is Carmen Sandiego, where is Jennifer now? But she blew it all by explaining where she was in our last comment section. But congratulations, Jennifer. We love having you. We look forward to having you back on Wednesday, because I'm assuming you'll be back soon. So that's good. Is there anything else? So that's all. It's Friday mornings are tough. So one quick announcement: tomorrow morning, doors open at 8 a.m. Contest starts at 9 a.m. It's the last division contest. This is division C and D. We've had joint contests, so it's actually two different contests that are actually put at the same time, same place. So you'll see the division C evaluation contest and the division D evaluation contest. Have a break, buy your raffle tickets, eat refreshments, lots of fun things, see your friends, because it is in person. And then you'll have your division C and division D international contests, and then find out all the winners, get all the announcements. We have incentives we're giving the clubs that have over 100% officers trained. So look for those incentives to be handed out. So many fun things are going on, and that'll all be tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. The contest starts at the historic 5th Street School, which is on 4th Street, but it's the historic 5th Street School. The flyers are out. The flyer was put in our last on Monday and Wednesday. I think the flyer was put in. You'll see it on Facebook also. But come to that. If you just type in historic 5th Street School, you're going to get where to go for that. So come to that tomorrow morning and come see your division contestants. Sorry. So you have a lot of fun with that though. Come to that. And then we got to yesterday look at the place, Hampton Inn, where we'll be having our district conference. And that'll include all the contests as well. We're getting excited about it. We looked at how the room will be set up. We talked about the live streaming, because we do have the live streaming package. So if you're not in the area or you can't really get out very well for whatever reason, we will have a streaming package, which will include, and it looks like we're including more even now. So originally it was going to have the keynote speaker, of course, the two contests, the two educationals, and the CNL award. And now it looks like you're also going to get the banner parade. So we're just looking at by Wednesday evening when we have our by Monday evening when we have our next planning event, we'll know more about what your live streaming package will include. But just know we're adding on to it. So you're getting more and more. So it's a $25 fee for the keynote, your two educationals, and your two contests, and now your banner parade and your CNL award. So all those things are happening. Look for even more. We'll have a final announcement, but there's a link in our last chat where it lists the link to get registered for either the online event or the in-person event.
What's CNL? I forget what the CNL award is. What is that?
When we just talked about jargon and not using jargon, Communication and Leadership Award. This, I never knew, because they always called it the CNL. And I just see, you got to realize when you first start going to any kind of conference, you don't know everybody. So you see a whole lot of people you don't know. And I would see, say, oh, the CNL award. And somebody would walk up and they would talk, and they seemed a little, perhaps not Toastmaster-ish, like some of us do. And then they would leave. And CNL is the Communication and Leadership Award, and it's presented annually. Usually the district director asks for nominations, but then finalizes it. And it is a person who does something to impact the community in a positive way, by using communication and leadership. So it isn't just that they're doing something. You could have one person who's every day never misses their Meals on Wheels route, and that certainly is very important. But this is the person who takes it to the next level, maybe coordinating 5 or 6 Meals on Wheels routes, or planting trees in the park, or just something that brings people together into a community of sorts and works with them with their communication and leadership style to have things accomplished in our community. So it's a very prestigious award. It's very nice. It's a nice engraved plaque, and it's really special. So we'll be getting that this year. And it's on the flyer, the lady who's receiving it, and a little tiny bit about her, but then you get to hear a lot more about her when the award's presented, and that will be live streamed for the live stream package folks. Of course, it'll be in person for our in-person folks. Well, with that, it is time to end our show. So we thank you very much for watching. You'll see Jean and I on Monday morning. I think Anita might be joining us as well. So Monday morning on Wake Up with Toastmasters, and then you get your usual cast of folks the rest of the week. So we'll see you then Monday at 6 a.m. Pacific on Wake Up with Toastmasters.